Yajna. Yamunatira vanachari. Yamunatira vanachari. Thank you. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari. Jaya Gopi Janavalabha Girivaradari. Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Pajajana Ranjana. Yashodanandana Pajajana Ranjana. Yamunatira vanachari. Yamunatira vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Pralanisima, 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 Jaya Pralanisima. Jaya Lakshmi Nisima, Lakshmi Nisima, Lakshmi Nisima, Jaya Lakshmi Nisima. Jaya Gauraṅga, Jaya Gauraṅga, Jaya Gauraṅga, Jaya Gauraṅga. Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Srila Prabhupada. Nitai Gora Bimanandi. I'm going to give the class in English, just because I know sometimes some people from the UK might listen. I hope that's okay. Everyone speaks English? Okay, yeah. So you don't speak German, so then it's anyway good. Okay, perfect. Okay, 238. That's still the worst. Yeah. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So, we are reading today from chapter 2, verse 38. Sukha dukkhe same kritva, labha labhau jaya jayo, tato yudaya yushyasva, naivam papam avapsyasi. Sukha dukkhe same kritva, labha labhau jaya jayo, tato yudaya yushyasva, naivam papam avapsyasi. Sukha dukkhe same kritva, labha labhau jaya jayo, tato yudaya yushyasva, naivam papam avapsyasi. Okay. Sukha dukkhe same kritva, Labha labha jaya jaya. Avapsyasi. Vaishnavis. Jaya jayo. Tato yudaya yashasva. Evam papam avapsyasi. Kaduke same kridva. Jaya jayo. Tato yudaya yashasva. Evam papam avapsyasi. Sukha, happiness. Dukkhe, and distress. Same, in equanimity. Kritva, doing so. Labha alabho, both profit and loss. Jaya ajayo, both victory and defeat. Tataha, thereafter. Yuddhaya, for the sake of fighting. Yushyasva, engage. Na, never. Evam, in this way. Papam, sinful reaction. Avapsyasi, you will gain. Translation. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you should never incur sin. Purport by His Divine Christ, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Lord Krishna now directly says that Arjuna should fight for the sake of fighting because he desires the battle. There is no consideration of happiness or distress, profit or gain, victory or defeat in the activities of Krishna consciousness. That everything should be performed for the sake of Krishna is transcendental consciousness, so there is no reaction to material activities. He who acts for his own sense gratification, either in goodness or in passion, is subject to the reaction, good or bad. But he who has completely surrendered himself in the activities of Krishna consciousness is no longer obliged to anyone, nor is he a debtor to anyone, as one is in the ordinary course of activities. It is said, Devarshi bhutapta ninam pritnam, Devarshi bhutapta ninam pritnam, na kinkaro nayam richit rajan, savatmaya saranam saranyam, gato mukundam parityakatam. Anyone who is completely surrendered unto Krishna, Mukunda, giving up all other duties, is no longer a debtor, nor is he obliged to anyone, not the demigods, nor the sages, nor the people in general, nor kinsmen, nor humanity, nor forefathers. This is a verse from Bhagavatam 11:541. That is the indirect hint given by Krishna to Arjuna in this verse, and the matter will be more clearly explained in the following verse. I read the verse one more time. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain... No, sorry. That was the previous verse. Anyway, let's read it as well. O son of Kunti, either you will be killed on the battlefield and attain the heavenly planets, or you will conquer and enjoy the earthly kingdom. Therefore, get up with determination and fight. Do thou fight for the sake of fighting, without considering happiness or distress, loss or gain, victory or defeat, and by so doing you shall never incur sin. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasadi Gaura Bhakta Vinda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Okay, so apologies again for being late, but it was out of my control because my car didn't want to start. So I had to walk here through the rain, which is fine. So this is the part in Bhagavad Gita where Krishna is stressing to Arjuna, just get on with it, you know. Stop complaining or considering so much. You're a kshatriya and your dharma is to fight. You know, your dharma is not to philosophize now on the battlefield on whether it's a good idea or not to fight. Imagine you are a soldier in the army and you have to attack the enemy to protect citizen. And then you start having a conversation with your commander. I think it's not such a good idea. I think we should do something else. So in the military, it doesn't work like that. You have a hierarchy and you have like authority and it goes down the command. And that makes a lot of sense when you are a soldier in an army, right? Imagine you start giving war instructions and then you have like 100 different opinions of how to conduct the war. It doesn't work, right? Just like if you want to run a business or a temple and you have too many people talking, nothing is ever going to manifest. So this is kind of the point where we have to see that in the context. We always have to understand that Bhagavad Gita was spoken to a kshatriya, not just any kshatriya, but a prince that was one of the greatest warriors on the planet. So when Krishna is speaking to Arjuna, he's speaking it also in such a way that a kshatriya will best receive this knowledge. So Krishna is always very aware who he addresses. Of course, Krishna is also aware that this Bhagavad Gita is going to be read for thousands and millions of years. So that's also there. But here he is really stressing this point to Arjuna to just do your dharma, do your duty. Sukha, dukkha, no matter if you're happy or unhappy, just do it. Now, if we're trying to imitate that, we might run into some issues, actually. Because Prabhupada says here, if you are completely surrendered, if one is completely surrendered to God, then he has no other responsibilities. But what means complete surrender? Complete surrender means you're holding nothing back at all, which means there are no desires apart from serving the Lord, which is an extremely elevated stage, which we earnestly aspire for, but most of us are quite far from this stage. So when we read this in Bhagavad Gita, and we go through life and we go through service, and we keep just pushing and moving forward, then we will run into issues, right? This is seen always in the temple. People come, people join. The first 3 or 5 years, people are usually very enthusiastic, then they take initiation, then they take second initiation. They have some service, some responsibility, but then usually comes the point in a devotee's life where suddenly the original taste, the enthusiasm goes down. And then, you know, if those devotees live in the ashram, they often get married, whether they're man or woman. They usually then find ways of expressing their individuality that was suppressed before. And sometimes what even happens is that people leave the spiritual movement altogether at this point. Because for some reason, and I've observed many people that turned their back towards the spiritual path. And the common theme was that, because I was always interested, if you leave this path behind, then what is the alternative that you turn towards to? And usually people engage in very similar activities that they did before. And I'm not now talking about drinking, eating meat, having sex. I mean like if they were a musician before, they do music. If they were an artist, if they were doing business before, they naturally gravitate towards what they're anyway naturally inclined towards too. And rarely, you know, someone leaves because they struggle with the concept that the highest goal of life is pure love. I really don't believe that anyone has per se an issue with that. It's such a general and positive and uplifting thing. But what can happen is when we are part of a religious institution and we are part of this for some time, and we don't take care of our individuality and we don't find ways of expressing that, then sometimes we really start to lose taste. Now, taste is not just the taste when we chant the holy name in ecstasy and tears start running down our eyes because we feel so much connected to the Lord. There's also a general taste of life. People that have taste in life. Have you ever seen people that have taste for life? They're very enthusiastic, they're very inspired, usually also very passionate, and they want to do something, they want to move something. It's the mode of passion, but they're full of life. So this individual expression, this taste for life, it's nothing bad per se. It's nothing we have to, in fact, it's good, it's important, because even when we join this movement, when we take up the process, much of the taste we are experiencing, apart from Krishna blessing us, is that we are in some kind of bubble a little bit, because we don't really yet fully understand what we're actually doing. We also don't really understand ourselves, and we are kind of as one good friend of mine called it, la la land, or we're in some cloud where we, maybe think we are very pure, very advanced, or very special, and this kind of and devotees encourage us, and people are happy with our service, and this, makes us go on, and this is fine, and this is good. However, coming back to this point of individuality, if we don't find that, then spiritual life becomes dry after some time. And what is individuality? We'll talk about that. And even if you observe senior devotees, people that have been for a long time in this movement, happily, not just in this movement, but happily in this movement, they have found their thing, their area, their service, their inclination, and they focus on that, and they make it their own, and they move in that direction. And if we're just a paste and copy devotee with no individual expression, then again, the theme is that you're a little bit in a dangerous spot, because you don't have yet enough higher taste to call yourself liberated, in the sense that you have so much taste that what Krishna is describing here, no matter if you're happy or unhappy, if you get results or no results, it's all the same for you. Imagine you go out on books, 1 day, 0 books distributed, 2 days, 3 days. Are you unaffected? 4 days. You cook for the devotees. They didn't like it. 2nd day, too much salt, no one liked it. 3rd day, are you sure you're going to be cooking here? So are we unaffected by that? And if we're very honest, and again, we have to differentiate between being genuinely not affected and suppressing things. There's a difference between, someone saying something that is hurtful, and we're like, well, that didn't hurt me, no problem. And genuinely not being hurt. Do you get the difference that I'm trying to point out a little bit? There's a difference. For example, let's say there's a funeral of a loved one, and many times the men try to be the strong one, so they feel sad, but they don't cry, and and I don't want to be cliche, but then there might other people that cry, and they're still feeling sad, they're very affected, but they're just pretending to be strong. So much of our spiritual life here is also pretending, in the sense that we don't yet really have bhava, we don't yet really experience spiritual emotions in our heart. We get a glimpse sometimes, but we don't experience it that. So a lot of what we do is, in one sense, imitating great devotees. We look what they do, we look how they behave, we look how they dress, and we imitate that. And that's fine. A child does that too, right? When a child is born, it looks at the parents and will start to imitate the parents. Therefore, when your child is acting in certain ways, where is it coming from? From the people that it's surrounded by. It will soak up everything. So just like when we join the movement, we do that. We soak up everything, we see things, For example, when I joined, I saw that many devotees, they had black rings under their eyes because they slept so less. So I thought, I have to do the same. So I just reduced my sleep, So I also got these things under my, very strange ideas, but when you just join, you have sometimes very weird conceptions about spiritual life. So then this goes on for some time. And now here's the thing. Again, if you observe the devotees that, kind of like go away from the movement and you look what they're doing, they could do exactly what they're doing now in bhakti. So coming back to this point of suppressing and being genuinely aware of where we're at, this is part of individuality. For example, we might experience that we don't have any desire for something for some time, and then suddenly in the evening we go in the pujari room and we take out all the maha sweets and eat them and go totally crazy. This is because, we haven't really transcended it. We're kind of like, pushing it down, going on, pushing it down, going on, and then one day, boom, it goes off. And this is, of course, very natural again. It's like a child that starts to walk, it tries to get up and walk, and it falls down, and it gets up and tries to walk, and it falls down. It's normal, it's natural. Now, at some point, when a child grows up, what happens? It starts to experience their individuality. Usually, when does it happen for a child? I mean, it's always there, of course, but when does it really manifest? Like this sense of rebellion and individuality? Teenage years, I would say. That's when really the individuality comes out, and the same, in our spiritual life. We will also go through this phase. We'll, be an infant, we'll start to walk, we'll start to adapt, we look what the adults are doing, and then comes the point when we have to understand, okay, what is my service, what is my place in this movement, what is it that I would like to offer to Srila Prabhupada? And we can understand this if we look at what Krishna has given us in this life. What are my natural talents and inclinations? What are the things that give me joy, that make me feel alive, that make me feel inspired? So to find that and to embrace that and to practice that is something that can really take us a long way, because Krishna consciousness is not a sprint. It's a marathon. You might start running in the beginning, but you'll notice soon the journey is very, very long. Okay, so therefore this point is very important. Now, what is individuality? What do I mean by that? We're talking about Dharma here. And when we're talking about Dharma, this is a topic, in my opinion, that is very often misunderstood. Okay, Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, put everyone in boxes, close the box, move on. You like to read, you're a Brahmana, you like to fight, you're a Kshatriya. But it's not exactly like that. It's very, very deep actually. And, I know devotees that have been practicing for 10, 20, 25 years, and they still are not fully clear which varna they have and what their dharma is. Because if you read Bhagavatam in the 7th canto, before the varnas are described, first there is a list of all the qualities a human being has, like forgiveness, tolerance, compassion, and all these qualities are listed. So that means you can only understand your dharma really if you are very sattvic, if your consciousness is clear. And your consciousness is clear when you're, first of all, not trying to be someone that you're not. You just accept yourself for who you are with everything, with all the good part and all the bad part, with all desires, the desires that are very favorable for Krishna consciousness, but also with all the desires that are not so favorable. If we just pretend this other shadow, as it's often called, this shadow, this tamasic side of us, is not there, and we just try to pull it under a carpet, we'll have a great awakening, but it's not going to be a spiritual awakening. So dealing with desires and emotions in a sattvic way means that we are conscious and we are aware of them, and we consciously might even feel them, but we don't act on them. Passion means we just fully act on them. Like we identify with them. I'm angry, so I'm anger personified now. I'm going to insult you, I'm going to get on your case, and I'm not in charge anymore of my identity. And Tama and Sattva can look very similar because Tama means I suppress it, I push it down. And how do we know if this is happening? Well, just ask yourself, how am I feeling? And if the answer is, I don't feel anything, I feel nothingness, I feel emptiness, it means you're suppressing something. Because otherwise you would feel something. You feel some gratitude, some joy, or some inspiration, or some sadness, or something. There would be an inner life. But when something is suppressed, then there's no inner life. And when there's no inner life, spiritual life becomes dry, also empty, we have no higher taste, and guess what we will do then? We'll go to the lower taste, very naturally. We'll go to the things that are not so good for us. And then sometimes what happens even is that we can develop this understanding that bhakti is maybe not so good for us. Maybe Krishna consciousness doesn't work for me because, I'm suffering here. And while we often see in Bhagavatam great devotees that, like Queen Kunti, is even praying for more suffering to come because then she can remember Krishna, we need to understand how elevated that is. That is so unbelievable, elevated. Can you go in front of Nishingadev and genuinely pray from your heart, Krishna, just send me more suffering, more obstacles, more of that. I need more, please. Genuinely from your heart. If you pray like that, either you're pure devotee or you're just in illusion. You don't know yet what is ahead of you. But it's very, very elevated. So therefore, if we want to go all the way in Krishna consciousness and not just have a few, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 shining years in the temple, then we need to find our own individuality and authenticity. Authenticity doesn't mean I feel anger, now I'm angry. I feel sad, now I'm sad, I'm letting myself go. It means that we have awareness of ourselves and what we think, feel and say is in alignment. So for example, if I constantly think about being in a relationship all the time, every day, and I'm in the brahmachari ashram, then there's no line of authenticity, and therefore at some point in my spiritual life I'll run into huge issues. If I keep doing a service that I on a human level absolutely hate, let's say that, well, hate is a strong word. I'm sure there's some service that you can think of that you don't particularly like doing. Now if you do it once or twice a week, that's what life is about. We have to do some austerity. If you constantly have to do it all the time, it's not going to work. So, again, we'll have to gravitate towards our authenticity. And what does it mean that, okay, our thoughts, feelings, and actions are in alignment? So does that mean if I feel like going out and taking some drugs that I should go out and do that? Or does that mean if I feel envy one day that I make an announcement in Mangal Artik in the morning? No, it just means that we are aware of this. I have some envy, I have some lust, I have some anger. But you don't judge yourself for it. Oh, bad me, I'm such a horrible devotee. You're just aware of it, you observe it, and you kind of like make a conscious choice to not act on it. There's a difference between, not being at all aware of our inner tamasic side and between consciously feeling it, being aware of it, and kind of like you will notice sometimes when you have the feeling of anger and you just give yourself a moment to breathe into that and to look at that and kind of like project it outside of yourself and look at it, that then the anger will be less. Right? But if you try to push the anger away, then you might find it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. Just like, you're chanting japa, and then suddenly you think of I don't know, that new bhaktin that just joined that you very much like, and you try to chant japa, and then you're thinking of her, and you're trying to chant japa, and you're trying to fight with your might, and you will see the thought will become bigger and bigger and bigger. If you're trying to fast on Janmashtami, and kind of like, I'm sure you've experienced that, prasadam, no, I'm not supposed to think about it, and then a whole battle starts, but you're actually making it bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So then what's the solution? Should you just get up and eat prasadam? Should you, go to the new Bhaktin or the new Bhakta and ask them if you can marry them? Well, maybe there's a way of balancing this. And the balance is like, okay, I'm aware that I'm fasting today. I acknowledge that I'm very hungry right now. So I don't have to pretend I'm Mr. Liberated here or Mrs. Liberated. I'm very hungry. It's quite an austerity, but it's okay. It's absolutely okay. I'm a human being. Is a question? 1 second. So I'm a human being, so I will not judge myself, not be harsh on myself, but I just accept that this is part of who I am right now on my spiritual journey. And when you do that, first of all, it makes you humble. Some illusion is away now. Because if you pretend, I'm not hungry, I'm super advanced, I'm like, I don't even want water, I don't even want to look at food, I'm not going to even serve anything on the altar because I'm so aloof. Then, you might end up in very embarrassing situations. So better acknowledge, okay, this is where I'm at, this is my level. And interestingly enough, and then I will get to your question, when you do that, what actually happens is that some sattva is increasing, because sattva means higher awareness about yourself and about reality. There are many ways of defining sattva, but that's one way of defining it. It just means higher awareness, higher knowledge. Okay, and if you don't have knowledge about yourself, that means there are tamas inside yourself. For example, these great acharyas, there's this, I don't know if it was Yamuna Acharya, who is praying, when I think about sex desire, I spit on the thought. So he's not saying he doesn't have the desire, he's aware of it. Now he's saying he spits on it, but he was saying, I notice it, I'm aware of it, but I'm not engaging in it. He's not like, it never enters my mind, I'm a pure devotee of the Lord. It doesn't really work like that, actually. Even if you're very advanced, it's more that the thoughts might come, but they're just not strong, because you don't empower them. And if you fight and battle your mind constantly, you can actually empower your mind. I know that Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur said, wake up in the morning, take a broom and beat your mind 100 times. But this is Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. Okay? If it works for you, do it. Great, I'm happy for you. If it doesn't work for you, consider taking another approach. So you had a question regarding this?
Yes. I was. Don't you recommend just the bit more easy way to just tell it to another devotee whom you trust?
Of course, they are. So that's the first of all, you want to be aware who you share your inner life with. That's the first thing. So because we're talking now about the shadow. So authenticity doesn't mean that you write a Facebook post about all the dark things about yourself, all the desires, it's no point in that. But to have deep relationships with other devotees, a few selected devotees, where you reveal your mind in confidence, that's of course very important. And then it again helps to feel fulfilled in spiritual life. Because if you're making a big show, then you feel alone. You feel alone. Again, you feel empty. But if you're just very honest and open about where you're at, but you don't want to be like that with everyone. I don't recommend that. You want to have discrimination as to who you can actually, trust is something you build up over time. So you reveal your mind in confidence, the other person reveals their mind in confidence. And like this, you build trust with each other. Of course, ideally, the other thing is you have ideally like a mentor in your life who you can open up to. Of course, this is also there. This is very, ideally your mentor, the person in your spiritual life that mentors you, especially in the first years of your spiritual life, is aware of your inner life. Okay, is aware of it. But even there, you want to connect to a person that has the same mood. Because you can go to 10 different devotees that tell you 10 different things about how to deal with your situation. So when you open your mind in confidence, you need to ask yourself, does this person have the same approach to spiritual life or a similar approach than I have? is this person, if they are more advanced, going in a direction in which I also want to go to? Is this person, does this person have integrity? What they say and how they communicate, that's what they practice in their life actually. So there's different considerations about that. But coming back to this point of individuality, so if we are aware about ourselves and what is inside of ourselves, and we acknowledge that, then we can also have the higher awareness to pray, to ask for help, for the intelligence to understand how to deal with it. If we're not aware of what's going on inside of ourselves, then how are we going to purify it? Unless Krishna steps in and takes it away, which he can do, but it seems like many times Krishna wants us to consciously choose him over the material energy. So that means we make a conscious choice over, following our lower nature or suppressing it or being consciously aware of it, and then gradually progressing from there. And this can only work, we can only be very honest with ourselves about where we're at if we are our own best friend. So Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, the mind can be the best of friends or worst enemy. So why is that? Because your mind can be very harsh on yourself. Oh, I'm such a bad devotee. I ate too much. I didn't get up. I have this desire. That thing happened again. I didn't follow you, and just beating yourself up with guilt and shame. Or you can be like, yes, this is where I'm at. Can't say I'm particularly proud of it, but it's okay because I'm in this movement, I'm purifying myself, and I'm taking shelter in Srila Prabhupada, and I'm progressing, and I'm taking step by step by step. So if you are very kind with yourself, if you're very loving and compassionate with your own emotions, if you are very compassionate with your anger, envy, and pride, you're like, hey, anger, what is it, anger? What is it that you're trying to tell me? Anger, tell me. What are you so upset about? What you're doing then, when you're taking an emotion and you have a dialogue with your emotion, you're actually making a distinction between you and that emotion. That means you're immediately not identifying anymore with that emotion. And then you can find out and understand deeply, why am I angry? Like, we need to understand, if you get angry at some situations in your life, you want to understand, why is that? If you are very envious and very competitive, you want to understand the root cause of that. Oh, why am I constantly envy of that other devotee that is distributing more books or cooking better or dressing the deities more nicely? Oh, it's because I don't have such a high opinion about myself. I have such low self-esteem that I feel immediately threatened if someone else steps in that is more advanced than me. In the spiritual world, we are happy for other people's advancement. So think about a person that you might feel some competition towards, some envy, or maybe you're not even aware of that, but that one person that triggers you, where you're like, oh, that person again, that devotee, or if someone glorifies that devotee, then, well, but have you heard about what they did last week? Last week they slept in and they actually didn't get up for Mangalarti. I didn't know if you knew that. Envy. That's envy. So, but then what makes us say that? It's not like, oh, no, I was envy. Okay, where's the broom? Let me beat myself up. We're not Christians that, harm themselves. So it's more like, why does this person trigger me so much? Let me interrogate and understand what's going on. That's Sattva Gun. Raja Gun is like you're completely going with your envy until you're going to kidnap Sita like Ravana did. Tamas mean you're not aware. I'm a pure devotee. Where's the garland? Why are people not bowing down yet? What's happening? So, of course, tamas can also mean that you make up your own philosophy, and I don't know, you're making up your own stuff, and you're, not following Dharma at all. So, when we step when we become aware of ourselves, and also the good things, it's important that we are aware about what we are good at too, realistically. If we're doing kirtans and the devotees appreciate that, then we don't have to deny that or artificially, pretend like we're not seeing that. It's like, okay, Krishna has given me this some talent, it comes from Krishna, it's not me, it comes from Krishna, okay, let me engage that. But when we have low self-esteem, then we attach ourselves to it. I'm the best kirtanier, no one sings better than me, I'm the most powerful kirtanier. You know, that's because there's no strong identity within yourself. There's not much inner life. If you are really, really happy in your spiritual life, are you really concerned so much about what other people think, what other devotees do, and you know, like, focus more on your own inner state and managing that, rather than all the other things that are going on outside of yourself and trying to control that. Because that's another symptom of passion, is you're trying to get peace of mind by controlling the external circumstances. So, if I'm temple commander, I want to have my peace of mind tomorrow, so I'm going to do it like this and this and this and this and that and that. Or if I'm a Sankirtan devotee, I need my peace of mind, so I'm not going to take Bhakta Joe because he gets on my nerves. So we're trying to control by adjusting our external circumstances, which doesn't work. It's a never-ending game, by the way. So sattva means I change my inner state, and then my outer state is changing too. Really? Yes. For example, I take you and the devotee you least like, and I put you in one box. Now, if you're already grumpy on that day, in a bad mood, you know, you're agitated, what are the two of you are going to do? If you're both in a really tamasic state, you probably start fighting, you know. But if you are in a very loving and kind and uplifted situation, this is not going to happen. So we need to manage our inner state. When our consciousness is more aware and there's more sattva in our consciousness, then life becomes also more simple. Sattva gun is very simple. You know, actually, when people explain things in very sophisticated and complex ways with names and words that no one has ever heard about, that's the symptom of the mode of passion. It's like science is sometimes like that. I was yesterday, you know, like watching a video about psychology, and someone was explaining a simple point in 10 minutes using words in ways, one sentence. Why make it so complex? So sattva gun is a very simple energy of the heart. Prabhupada writes in a purport in Bhagavatam, I haven't noted it here, but at home, that Rajagun means the air element is increasing, you know? Vata, air element, we're like, you know, running around, not really knowing what we're doing, but we're just doing something. Sattva gun is a very grounded energy. We're very present, very aware of our own. Only if you're very aware of yourself can you be very aware of others. So sattva gun is an energy of the heart, and rajagun is the energy of the head, where we're constantly trying to solve something, fix something, do something, but we're not really connected to the Lord in our heart. And tamagun, we're not using our heart, not our head, we are completely disconnected. When I say sattva gun is the energy of the heart, I'm not talking about that's the energy of emotion, but I'm talking about sattva gun is a state where you experience your true self, the soul in your heart to some extent. You feel some natural joy, some natural happiness from the soul. Therefore, and because you have that knowledge and awareness, it can condition you. Sattva gun conditions, Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, through happiness and through knowledge. Ultimately, it can then easily be transformed into pride. But that's another topic. Okay, I'll end here. Are there any questions or comments? Yeah, go on.
Ich muss leider auf Deutsch sprechen, weil mein Englisch wirklich schlecht ist.
Ich verstehe das alle.
Ich dachte, wir sind... No, okay.
I translate. Ich werde die Frage übersetzen.
Okay. Also, ich habe schon seit langem darüber gedacht und was Sie erzählen haben, hat mich, also diese Situation während Chanten zum Beispiel, wenn zu mir kommt irgendwelche Gedächtnis, dann versuche ich das zu unterdrücken und okay, ich mache weiter. Und dann kommt es so in 15 Sekunden wieder, schon in großer Form und so weiter, so weiter. Das stört ziemlich sehr. So Problem liegt daran, wenn ich das nicht unterdrücke, sondern darüber denke, zum Beispiel Essen. Wenn ich das unterdrücke, muss ich das, also keine Kuchen, also ich werde nicht darüber denken, versuche mich zu, also an irgendwas anderes denken. Dann es funktioniert nicht so gut. Aber wenn ich nur so, okay, dann unterdrücke ich das nicht, dann Kuchen, dann Reis, dann so weiter, wird es noch schlechter und noch schwieriger. Sie haben also auch über Dialog gesagt, das ist, ich habe nie ganz verstanden, also vielleicht mit Börse verstehe ich, so Gründe für Börse und so weiter, aber wenn ich über Essen zum Beispiel denke, Grund dafür, ich würde nicht über Gründe denken, sondern über Essen zum Beispiel.
Okay, so in very simple words, the question is, well, let's say I chant japa and I think about some prasadam, sweets or whatever, and I suppress it, it doesn't work, but then if I just, not suppress it, it also doesn't work if I just look at it.
Yeah.
So the point is that if you, and let's, prasadam is in one sense, it's kindergarten, right? Like these things are often just a preliminary desire that is hiding some deeper desire that you actually have. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that's the first thing. So if you continuously find that all you do at japa is think about prasadam, then it again makes sense to interrogate that. Okay, what need do I have? Maybe genuinely what you need is in the morning to get up and eat some fruits because you have a certain physical constitution, so you just need to eat a little bit. So there's no problem. But if it's like the type of eating where you overeat and eat sweets and things that are not good for you, then it's important to understand, okay, what am I trying to compensate here for? My desire that I have to eat or to sleep or to desire something material, what part of me, is it that kind of like feels so dissatisfied or so empty? And why is that? So my point is, this is a very big topic. It's about trying to go deeper. Because prasadam is just the beginning. That's not your problem. You get what I'm saying? Like, people do this all the time because, I work as a counselor. People come, I have a problem with my diet. Okay? It's not really the diet. It's something deeper that is going on that is actually the problem. Just like addiction. When someone has an addiction, it's actually not the alcohol that they are addicted to. It's a bit deeper than that. There is a certain inner wound that needs healing. There's a certain imbalance in someone's system that needs healing. You get my point? It's more that what is it that I gain from eating now in my japa period prasadam? What is it that I will gain right now? What is it? Is it a feeling of safety, of belonging, of peace? And are there other ways to give myself this feeling? For example, let's say you have the desire to let's say you have the desire to have a lot of money or whatever it is, or get married or whatever or you eat something sweet or whatever the desire is. Ask yourself, what emotional state do I gain from that? And how can I give myself this emotional state in a sattvic way? So for example, if you have the desire to, go out shopping for clothes and things or whatever it is, or to go crazy in the ice cream shop, what is it really that I need? Okay? So I'm just seeing, was there any other question because this is a deep thing. We can talk after the class if you want to go deeper. Okay. Was there any other question? Yes.
There's one question in chat by Shireen Mataji. She's asking how to get the inner state to sattva gun and being content with that without needing to change the environment or the surroundings.
This is how to get in a sattvic state without changing the environment. Oh, like that. Okay, because I talked before that Raja means we want to control everything outside of ourselves. Well, I mean, first of all, like many things in spiritual life, most of us, we need the experience that when we do that, we're actually creating frustration for ourselves and for the people around us. So it's like a practical experience. I try to constantly micromanage and control. What do I end up with? Do I feel closer to Krishna? Do I feel more like a humble servant, or do I feel like the controller? So it's just observing this and then making a conscious choice to do your best to manage your inner state first, to prioritize your inner state first. Meaning, if you know you have a lot of things to do, instead of like, okay, let me start with getting everything done, and then I chant, and then I read, and then I do my meditations, you say, no, first I do my meditations, first I do my reading, first I hear a class, and then I go on my busy day, you know? Have you ever felt like this? Okay, let me just get these things done, and then I take care of myself and my spiritual life. So that's what I would say. And this can only come from experience. It takes time to get this sometimes. Was there any other question? Because then, yes? Yeah.
And developed in a way that it's more natural and progressive.
Yeah.
Along to practicing bhakti yoga.
Yeah.
So we understand that while the process of bhakti yoga it's an effect on us, the process of purification, that Swadharma also gradually it's being transcended.
Yeah, so you're basically saying, so what's your specific question? That we
The
gradually,
balance,
by engaging in our Swadharma, we will transcend it.
At the same time, because we need to find our natural propensity and be engaged in service, but at the same time, by being in bhakti, that will be transcended. But how to get the balance in that without losing the perspective?
See, like, I actually don't find evidence for that in Shastra, that there's a time where we, like, engage with our nature. I mean, the evidence that you find is like the Pandavas, that were engaged as Kshatriyas, and then when they were about to leave their body, then, in the very end, they kind of like withdrew. But basically, up to the last point, they're engaged in their natural inclination. There was but to kind of like bring some harmony into this point before we get absorbed, my understanding is that to engage yourself in your nature, and like this is now, your Dharma is not separate from being purely engaged in Krishna consciousness. Arjuna was a pure devotee. On the battlefield, killing people, and later in the forest, doing mystical yoga, transcending the modes of nature. So, if you have the nature to be a Vaishya, you will always be a Vaishya. But your sattva gun will increase, and you probably will engage in more and more brahminical activities. Yeah. But the natural inclination will always be there, and it will help you in your spiritual life. So.
Yeah. It's kind of our natural psychophysical nature being engaged, but because of the power of the process, we have some effect on that. No? Because the idea is to transcend that psychophysical identification as well.
I would disagree with that. I don't think that's the goal. I think that we engage in our psychophysical nature, and in the process, our spiritual identity gradually becomes revealed, up until the point where we have reached such high stages, where then, you know, we probably just meditate on Radha and Krishna. But that comes naturally. And Srila Prabhupada was active until his last breath. You know, he never withdrew from his activities.
Yeah. Well, that's another
So-
one. Maybe we can talk later about
Yeah.
it if you want to.
I think there can be different approaches to this. So
Yeah.
so you can harmonize these points about. I know the traditional understanding. You do your dharma and then you transcend it. But from my understanding, you have a certain nature and you just connect everything with Krishna. And in doing so, you become more and more pure. And in your heart, gradually, as you're engaging, your spiritual identity becomes revealed. But you don't really, if you read Chaitanya Charitamrita, many of these pure devotees, unless they were renunciants, they were a businessman or, Kalavecha Shrida selling banana leaves. He was not artificially being someone he is not. So sometimes sometimes we have examples of people that come here, like Bhaktisiddhanta Sarasvati Thakur. His psychophysical nature, in one sense, was to be a devotee in the sense that he was totally Brahminical. So there was not so much, you get my point, there was no need to, he was always engaging his nature. Okay? But I'm just aware that we have also puja, so I would just like to make time for Gaura Arti. I'm sure Akila Prabhu would appreciate that. But it's a longer conversation, and also there tend to be different approaches to this topic. So, yeah. Also from Shastra, you can find different examples, So I could even say the example of Bharat Maharaj that renounced everything and then he fell down because he didn't have association anymore. So there are different ways of how to approach this topic. But let's continue this another time. Jai Srila Prabhupada ki.
Prabhu?